All right. Good afternoon. I apologize for the late start. Couple technical difficulties, working folks running around. But we wanted to come together today and share a couple of things about what we've been doing in Cleveland. And so we have a mission and vision that we'll share with you, give you a little bit of history. And then we have a couple of awesome computer science teachers who are going to share kind of their experiences about licensure and different types of things that have happened along the way. And Yolanda, I'm sorry, I could see the closed captioning, but I can't see the slides now.
So if you will click on, there's screens at the bottom. If you will click on the slides, it will show the slides.
There we go. Thank you. Sorry. Thanks.
No, that's for, I was about to type that for the audience. If you need closed captioning, click on the screen that shows closed captioning, but to see the slides, click on the one that shows the slides.
Thank you, Yolanda. All right, Carla, if you can go to the next slide.
Okay.
So in Cleveland, we've been doing
and
this
Carla,
work
hit present.
Thanks. So in Cleveland, there's a large group of people who've been doing this work around computer science for some time. And about eight or 10 years ago, we developed this mission and vision where we really wanted to concentrate on equity in computer science. And I'll talk about the reasons for that as I kind of go through the history. But basically, we want to provide CMSD, which is Cleveland Metropolitan School District, with all of the computer science resources that they need for their kids to not only have access, but entry points into computer science careers. Carla, you can go on to the next slide. And if you could click through all of these. Thank you. All right, so in 2013, we started providing professional development around AP computer science. And at the same time, Cleveland Metropolitan School District was starting John Marshall IT High School. And one of the things that we noticed in our professional development was most of the teachers who were coming were from the suburbs. So in our second grant, we've had 3 National Science Foundation grants so far that have supported this work. And in the second grant, we focused on Cleveland because that's where we live, that's where we serve, and those teachers weren't coming to professional development in the beginning. So we made a concerted effort to work with Cleveland and East Cleveland and the surrounding districts that touch the Cleveland area. And then we were able to secure some funding from the Cleveland Foundation. They've been supporting us throughout this entire project also. So we were looking at the high schools. Let's teach the teachers to teach AP computer science courses, to teach exploring computer science. We've taught teachers around Bootstrap. So that was the high school piece. And then the K-8 piece has been around integrating computer science in other disciplines. So that the goal is that every kid will have some computer science K through 12. And then we continued that work over the course of 4 or 5 years, and we still continue that work. We don't have computer science in all the Cleveland high schools just yet, but we'll continue to work on that. And then we were just awarded in October a grant that focuses on the students. So we're creating student pathways now. We've got a cadre of teachers teaching computer science. There's a lot of buzz around computer science, and now we're shifting our focus to the students. So we have about 25 students on campus. They started today, and they're being paid to do an internship and learn some computer science and do some projects for KeyBank. So that's kind of where we've been and kind of where we are with the grant funding that we've got. If you can go to the next slide, Carla. So in the state, meanwhile, so we're just this project in Cleveland trying to do what we can do. But at the state level, there's also been some focus on computer science. We've had House Bill 170 in 2017 allowed computer science to count as a math credit toward graduation for high school students, which was good for computer science and caused a challenge around math, but we're kind of working through that. We have had in Ohio since 1980 a K-12 computer science license, but nobody in the state, no teacher preparation program was offering the license. It was pretty outdated. So we had a challenge in that we were providing professional development for teachers to teach computer science, but they didn't have this K-12 computer science license, which caused some problems, caused some union issues. So unions got word that teachers were teaching kind of out of their content area, and it caused some issues. So we worked with partners across the state to advocate for what the state's calling a supplemental license. Also maybe might be called an alternate license in some places. But basically we have 2 years and we're working with the state again. There's a current bill under revision to extend it. But right now in Ohio, if you go through a professional development program, you can teach computer science for I think 2 years. And then you have to be able to pass this computer science OAE, which is Ohio Assessment for Educators, very similar to Praxis. So we're continuing that work. And then Carla, if you can go to the next slide. So I just want to talk for real quick before I hand it over to Miss Neely and Miss Coaston. The groups that are on the slide at one point were competitors with one another. So Cleveland State was offering professional development, Battelle was offering code.org professional development, TEALS was working with Cleveland State, and then Project Lead the Way was also offering professional development. But we were all having the same computer science license issues. So we came together and we continue to meet regularly. We wrote a white paper that resulted in some of the language in 2017. We're currently drafting some more language and reach out to senators and House of Representative folks in Ohio because we wanted the same outcome, but we wanted to make sure we were using the same words because language matters. And, if I say one thing, I might mean the same thing as the person from Project Lead the Way, but the person receiving the message might think we're talking about two different things. So we've really tried to bring folks together to push the computer science licensure pieces as well as standards, et cetera, as a unified group. You can go on to the next slide. So next, like I said, we're gonna have a couple of our AllStar teachers talk about kind of their experience. So Miss Neely, I'll hand it over to you.
Okay, thank you. I'm Miss Neely and I am responsible for K-8 science, but right now I'm focusing more so on middle school. And what I noticed was when it came to certification for computer science, yes, the certificate is for K-12, but there's nothing in place for the K-8 grade band. And what we all know is that the foundational work happens with computer science with that K-8 band. So if they're not getting it the way that they should, it makes it difficult for the high school computer science teachers. They have to backtrack a little bit. So as I mentioned, it's important for students to be introduced to various aspects of computer science at the foundational level, which is elementary and middle school, which will most likely result in more students becoming interested in taking computer science courses in the high schools, because at the elementary and middle school level, the kids are like more so sponges. They can retain and grasp new concepts really quickly. And so as an elementary and middle school teacher, I had to investigate what programs would be appropriate for my students to learn computer science effectively, because according to those computer science state standards, it wasn't matching their development as far as how they learn. So as I mentioned, there are some issues with computer science certification with elementary schools and middle schools. As I mentioned, there's nothing really in there set in stone for K-8. If I was to earn the certification, which I'm working on, I can be transferred to a high school building. And mind you, I've never taught high school before. I'm not even certified to teach high school. But with that certification, I can be moved to high school to teach it. In the state of Ohio, in addition to the state standards, we have what is called model curricula, where they give you examples of where to start, what to do with the students as far as their different abilities, so they can start mastering those standards. And there's no model curriculum for that goes with the computer science standards. And I also teach in an urban inner city school district, which I love. I've been doing it for 22 years. And one of the things that are common with inner city students is like most of them come quite a few years behind the current grade level that they're at. And so when you look at those standards, there's nothing in place for their students who are coming in and they're behind, but they want to learn computer science and could be gifted in computer science, but there's nothing there in those state standards for those students who are coming 3 and 4 years behind in the other subjects, what makes it difficult to teach in general, but they can still learn. So with the limited resources that I had to really look into the learning styles of my students. And that's how I ended up creating a computer science plan for my 5th and 6th grade students, now 7th and 8th that I'll be having in the fall. So what I did was I looked at the computer science standards, which didn't really match where I needed to go with them. So what I did instead was I relied more on CSTA standards for CS. They match really well with the development of my students, and I have links for everything for you all. So here are their current standards, but we're in the process. I'm on that committee of updating the CSTA standards. And also the progression of computer science. And with this progression, they show you developmentally what each grade is responsible for as far as learning. So once I figured those things out, the 3 easiest computer science programs that I was able to use, and I still continue to use, was Microbit, Code.org, and Wonder Workshop, because they all work together. Microbit and Wonder Workshop, their curriculum matches Code.org's curriculum. So once my students mastered the requirements with Code.org, I was then able to introduce them to the Microbit with Python and Wonder as well. So with Microbit, the curriculum is free, it's virtual. The Microbits are inexpensive. If you have a limited budget like my school district and many school districts similar to mine, there is a simulator where they can learn how to code using Make Code or block coding and Python as well. And students can even save their projects. And there's lessons there for the students that range from beginners all the way to advanced. So as I said before, this really helps my students who are coming to school behind their current grade level as far as skills. So as mentioned, we also use Code.org, and I'm a facilitator for that program as well for computer science discoveries. And computer science fundamentals is for K through 5. That's a free program. Computer science discoveries is for grades 6 through 10th. And CS principles, that pretty much prepares them for AP computer science. That is for grades 9 through 12. Now with computer science discoveries and computer science principles, there's a small fee for training and for your materials, but what ends up happening is at the end, you get that reimbursement back and you get reimbursed that money that you pay. And there's always scholarships available because as mentioned, they are really looking at closing the gap as far as underprivileged children receiving computer science education. And like the other slide, I have links for information for you as well that you can go to. And then the last one is Wonder Workshop that I use. It is not free, but what I did was I did a Donors Choose project, and Donors Choose saves my life on a lot of materials that they need because computer science can be expensive. I was able to get the whole entire curriculum and all the robots that I need to teach my full class, how to use those robots. And these are actual robots. And these robots can be used for grades kindergarten, could be preschool as well, all the way up to 12th grade. And for each robot, each student can use, it's a different ability that can be incorporated. So Dash and Dot uses block coding. Those are for the beginners. And then Q robot can use block coding as well, but then it starts to introduce them to JavaScript and that word coding using words, which prepares them for when they go to high school computer science. And that is aligned to code.org as well. Sorry about that. I'm going to send this over now to a good friend of mine, Ms. Coaston, and she is going to provide information to you all pertaining to computer science in the high schools.
Well, just like, hold on just one moment. Okay, my apologies. I'm in my car if you haven't noticed. So just like Miss Neely, I actually work in a district next door in East Cleveland, and there are definitely challenges on the high school level because I too have a lot of students that are at level. And for high school, the biggest thing for high school is either the students aren't interested in computer science or they don't know about it, or they don't think they're going to be successful because they hear the word computer science and they think of, you know, the nerds or the really smart kids, and they think it's really boring, and that's not what, you know, they're interested and they want to do. Also, another issue I've talked to other high schools, is not a priority because it's due to graduation. So if a student is, you know, behind in their work, they don't get the options of doing electives because they need to focus on those main courses. And another thing is about high school is a lot of high schools see it as just an elective, whereas in our high school, in our district, we do use that state of Ohio approval. Well, it can be a math or a science credit, and that actually helps us because students who, you know, don't want to go to college, they just want to graduate, just want to get the credit, but they don't want to take pre-calculus, they don't want to take chemistry, but they need some kind of, you know, math or science for graduation, they put them in our classes. Another challenge I saw in high school is a few teachers want to teach it. Also, you know, with budgets and things, there's a lot of teacher cuts. So something like computer science, if it's not seen as relevant for graduation, you know, they won't offer it. And a lot of people see computer science as being very siloed, which means it's not collaborative. It's not gonna, what can it really do? So those are some big challenges in the high school in regards to computer science, not only in my building, but I've seen, and I've spoke with other colleagues about. The awesome part about my district is that they've seen the success in computer science, and unlike a lot of schools, they're actually expanding it. So now it'll be me and myself, another colleague of mine who does a lot of CS work for special education. Then we have another teacher who actually does the higher level programming, which is Java. You're going to hit the next slide, please, Miss Neely. And some issues with certification, just like Miss Neely was stating. Some issues I saw with certification is that, you know, we don't have like the really guidance to kind of help us. So like they do have the workshops, but the biggest issue is that it's K-12, and it covers things that I've never taught and I will probably never teach. And that was a huge struggle because, you know, if I'm only focusing on, you know, 3 subjects within computer science, that certification wants you to know everything. So that was the biggest struggle. And some of the topics were not relevant to high school. And that was a big thing as well. And just like Miss Neely said, you know, I get the certification. Fortunately, I'm in a district where I'm going to stay high school. But if I do go to a bigger district like Cleveland schools, they might say, hey, we're going to put you down in middle school or elementary school. And that's an issue when you're in those bigger districts. And then another issue is once you pass the CS exam, you have to do 2 years of a supplemental license. So that's another thing too. So once you pass the test, now you have to do 2 years of a supplemental license, which you have to apply 2 years in a row, get the approval. And, you know, fortunately, you know, I was given materials by Miss Franklin. So she did give me the materials I needed. So I was able to pass, but the certification itself, there was no study guide available. So we had to go to an outside agency, thank goodness for CS for Cle, to get the study material we needed because they didn't provide it. The study guide they provided was just standards. That's not a study guide. That's just standards. I can find standards. I need a study material and practice material. So that was the biggest issues as far as certification. But I did finally pass, but those were some huge issues that I saw. Go ahead, Ms. Franklin or Neely. And as far as high school work, I'm on the cusp of transitioning, and we're looking to more certifications for students, because we've noticed that a lot of jobs in this computer science area are programming and IT, and we can get the students certified before they walk out of high school, which means students that don't want to go to college can go right into the workforce with certifications. So we're looking to not only increase the courses, but we're looking to streamline the courses so the kids can have pathways to go directly into the workforce. Yes, we do want kids to go to college, but not every student's going to college. And looking at the job market, 70% of the jobs are for people with 2-year degrees, 70% of the jobs. So, you know, we're pushing for them that, hey, you can get a certification, maybe go to community college for a couple more years, and now you have a job by the time you're 20 years old. You know, also offering computer science for all students, because we still have districts and that are scared to put a student with an IEP in an AP class because they're scared of their test scores, their results. And that's very disheartening. Also collaborating with others inside the school, outside the school, and also understanding that computer science is very hands-on. And when you relate to not only your the real world, but you relate to other classes, it helps students as well, because I know I've seen students, their math scores actually go up when they're in computer science because of the way they're thinking. And also look at curriculum that is actually culturally responsive and equitable, and that's how we deepen the work at the high school level. That's what I know we've been doing at the high school level, and the goal is to trickle down to where Miss Neely is. And that's it for me. And Miss Neely, go to the next one. Oh, I didn't go back. Okay, then go forward, because I'm done. I guess we either Miss Franklin or Miss Jackson.
All right. Yes, it's my turn. I have to say thank you to Miss Neely. Like Dr. Jackson said, our teachers are superstars. She jumped right in when I had technical difficulties. So, and also thank you to the participants for being patient. But thus, I am Crystal Franklin, the director of CS for CLE. And so you've heard from the three presenters before me. So what does all this mean? So as you all have listened to the challenges, we got together and we thought, what can we do? One, to reduce a lot of these barriers that our teachers were facing that would prohibit more scholars from engaging in computer science. So in response to stricter guidelines for CS teachers, we, as part of the policy coalition that Dr. Jackson mentioned, put together the white paper. And out of that white paper came policy that stated if teachers taught for 2 years, teachers could teach for 2 years with the micro-credential that she mentioned. And that was huge for us, because that meant as long as the district said, okay, you've taken Exploring Computer Science or AP Computer Science, you can continue to teach. And that means the scholars could continue to engage as long as you were working towards CS licensure. And that was another thing we started thinking about. Micro-credentials are awesome and they do allow teachers to teach, but what could we do to create sustainability? So that means when CS for CLE, one day in the next 100 years, is no longer in place, what's gonna happen? Are we still gonna have teachers who can teach, or will everything sort of disintegrate and all the work kind of goes up in smoke? So they allowed the professional developments to count for teachers to teach computer science. These three are just some examples. You've heard other examples mentioned from Ms. Neely and Ms. Coaston. So these are just three examples. There's a lot of curriculum out there, but that's where some of the things we were doing to make sure our teachers were prepared to teach through professional development. Next slide. So one of the huge things we did, we came out and we thought, how can we get teachers better prepared? As Ms. Coaston mentioned, there were not a lot of materials out there, not a lot of support for teachers who wanted to study for CS supplemental licensure. So we came up with this supplemental licensure workshop, and I like to call it the boot camp, because in 2019, they had a week-long, 8-hour-a-day training session. And we had a master teacher, Carolyn Pettit, come in, and she worked with those teachers literally 8 hours a day, and they struggled and they went through it. It was extremely rigorous. Included in that was reimbursement for exam fees when they chose to take the exam, and also through a collaboration with the University of Texas, they were all provided a link to online study materials. So you had the teacher who was presenting the work and helping the teachers through working through the exam material. You had the online program that they could use to self-study. And we had 19 attendees. And we are so happy to say that of all of the teachers who went through the workshop, we had 100% passage rate. We had a few who actually even went and took the exam that Saturday of the same week. So that's 14. And the other 5 either have not taken the exam or haven't told me they took it. So that was exciting news. What's also exciting is that we have decided to run that same CS licensure workshop, and we are already up to, I think, 20. So there is high interest, and I'm hoping that we have the same results that we had in the past, but we are very confident that Carolyn Pettit is going to do a fantastic job. We are still using the program out of University of Texas because it was very much in line along with Carolyn with what's on the exam. So fingers are crossed, and we are sure it's going to be successful. The other thing we did as part of supplemental licensure, teachers must have a CS methods course or a methods course. What's interesting about that is that if you're in the K-8 space, you're covered. But many of the 9 to 12 teachers did not have this methods course. And like Dr. Jackson mentioned, where do you find a CS methods course in education? I'm sure they're out there, but they're hard to find. So Cleveland State University now offers a CS methods course to satisfy state requirements for licensure, which is huge. And that's slated to start, I believe, next Monday. So there's also interest in that. So we go through kind of in a nutshell what we've done. We have the workshop that will support teachers who want to study and be better prepared for the exam. We have reimbursement for exam fees, so we break any barriers there if it's financial. And then we have the methods course that will further satisfy the requirements for supplemental licensure, hoping that on the other side of all of this, that we'll have this cadre of teachers who are prepared and ready to move forward teaching computer science, for years to come. Next slide. So Dr. Jackson did mention the Computer Science Policy Coalition. I won't go through that too much. But one thing that really didn't come up, one of the big things we want to do, actually it did come up. Ms. Neely mentioned the fact that, and Ms. Coaston, being in the K-8 space or in the 9 to 12 space, because the licensure is K-12, you can be moved around. So we are really pushing for a more striated licensure bands to where you can get the licensure in K-5 or K-8 and not have that risk of being displaced out of your teaching element, if I will. The other thing we want to do is sustain recognition of micro-credentialing. So that provision was 2 years. We are hoping to get at least another 2 years where teachers who say, well, I want to teach computer science, I'm not yet ready for licensure, or that's not necessarily the way I want to go. If we can continue Ohio, ODE, to recognize that micro-credentialing is extremely valuable to teachers who want to teach, and let's continue to allow them to use those district-approved micro-credentials to teach. That's just another way we can continue to sustain our programs and make sure that scholars are able to engage in computer science. Next slide. So that was the end of my part. We are ready for any questions that you all may have. Ladies, if I have missed anything, please jump in there. But we are extremely excited to be doing this presentation, and we hope that you all have learned something that will allow you all to create systems and put systems in place where more teachers get licensed and more students get access to computer science.
So I am moderating the chat. So if you have a question, if you just want to type it in there, we can respond. There was a question earlier about what were the issues around the teachers qualified to teach CS that I mentioned. Those were really union issues, and some members of the union feeling like if a teacher was, this is my understanding, but if a teacher was able to teach computer science out of their content area, that might give them some advantage over a teacher who had to stay in their content area. So that was one of the issues. And then there were also some questions, and which I guess were issues around would the teachers actually be prepared to teach computer science, right? Does this professional development and the support that we provide, is it enough, right? So, and one of the things that we do, the professional development that we do at Cleveland State includes time in the summer as well as time throughout the academic year. So we've created a community of computer science teachers in Northeast Ohio that include teachers from all over, not just Cleveland and East Cleveland, excuse me, to provide some of that support to each other. So those were the major union issues, at least that trickled down to me.
Questions, we're ready.
Any other questions?
I think I'll mention another sort of issue. Many of our teachers are not math or science teachers, which a lot of people think they are. So in our burn house of teachers, I'll use that term, we have Spanish teachers, we have history teachers, we have English teachers, teachers from every discipline coming in and teach computer science. I'll use Ms. Coaston because she's on here as an example. She is social worker turned special education teacher turned CS teacher. We have Ms. Neely, who elementary school teacher turned computer science teacher. So one concern was, well, now you have this Spanish teacher turned computer science teacher. What will that look like? And others felt like, too, if we have to do all of this work to become a science teacher, for example, how is it that computer science teachers can jump right in without the same type of training or similar training that they had? And because computer science is so specialized, that was actually supported our argument that the specialization of computer science does kind of give some credence to using micro-credentials. So we did have a little bit pushback from teachers wondering, like, how did this happen? But we have been extremely successful. I can tell you, I know plenty of history teachers who are now teaching computer science and being very successful.
And I want to add to that because I'm definitely Debbie's been there since the beginning. I was not successful learning computer science at first, and it's still hard to believe I'm still sitting here 4 or 5 years later, even on a panel about computer science. But the training is very intense, but it's helpful, and they walk you through the steps, and there's always a support system. And the one program I forgot to talk about was Microsoft Teal's program. They definitely were helpful with the AP computer science piece. I mean, I'm still in contact with both of the gentlemen that helped with my classes for those 2 years, even though I don't need them anymore. I mean, they basically said, you know, hey, you're good, you don't need the help. But they definitely helped me during that class time. You know, was not only me learning CS, but teaching CS and teaching the students. And because of that, you know, this year the kids didn't take the AP test because it was just too stressful for me and them. But, you know, last year, you know, where we had to shut down school, the 22 kids that did take the AP test all got a 3 or higher. And I'm coming from social work with a history background, so with special ed, so it can happen, but the teacher themselves have to put that work in. So, and I'm always in somebody's professional development, and I'm always asking questions. So, you know, all the time, because that's just what I do. If I don't know, I'm going to find the answer. So it's actually up to the teacher to get the information, because the information is definitely out there.
Yeah, and there is a question in the chat about, so the question is, are there efforts underway to engage industry professionals who want to switch careers to education? So a couple of answers to that. We do not have a program specific for that at the moment. However, the state does have opportunities for folks to get licensed who have degrees in the content area. So if you have a computer science degree, you can get a different type of license that allows you to teach. I think you have to take maybe 1 or 2 methods courses or something like that.
It's like career tech education classes they can take. And quite a few school districts are actually looking for industry professionals for cybersecurity, IT already. So it is, for Ohio, it's set up as usually in the career tech track.
Yeah, so we don't have any efforts kind of under our umbrella for that specifically, but the state does have routes for those folks.
I would just say I got into computer science because my principal had some microbits, and she said, "You're a science teacher. Do you know what this is? Here you go." And I had no idea how to use microbits at all. I didn't even know what they were called. And they were brand new. And I said, okay, I'll go to the training and figure out how to use them. And I practiced on my own, and it just became what it is. And I have a unique platform because in addition to being an urban teacher, I teach all girls. So we all know that it's really a shortage of girls who look like me in computer science. And when I tell you, when I bring those robots and all that to the table, those girls jam from the lowest to the low to the highest of the high. And we have been this way nonstop, even with the pandemic, to the point where I told them I want to take at least about 2 weeks off this summer so I can have a breather, and then we will work on some things. And all they really needed was the opportunity for them to check it out. And then it became their choice if that's what they wanted to do. And these are children who have behavior problems in other classrooms, who don't do their homework in other classrooms, who don't do their projects, who hardly come to school. But if they know we're doing a presentation using computer science, they are there and holding each other in line. I think computer science is a skill where I don't know what it is, but the magic happens with those, especially with those struggling students, because it's so hands-on, and they don't have to think outside of what their style is.
And just to piggyback on that, Ms. Neely, it would be catastrophic to lose you in that K-8 space, which is why, going back to licensure challenges, it is so important that we continue to work with the Policy Coalition to make sure that the licensure is striated properly. Not to say you couldn't be a valuable asset in 9 to 12, but in that pathway preparation, having someone in that grade band setting the pathway so that when they get to Miss Coaston, they're even that much more prepared is integral. So we need to keep you in that space. We want your license, but we need to keep you in that space.
Yeah. So I just want to say there's a statement in the chat, and Ms. Coaston, I don't know if you want to respond to this because the statement has to do with you. But it says, as a social worker, Ms. Coaston came to the job with a super skill, empathy, that this made her the perfect person to teach CS. You're muted.
Yes. So, because that's how I met Miss Neely. I was actually a school therapist when she was in our district. But so with me, I keep things positive because a lot of students come in, they're the students that the honors AP students are not used to failing. So I have to deal with their emotions and talk about failing. And, then we have the students that always have struggled, building them up, letting them know, hey, you're going to struggle and that's okay. And I appreciate the struggle. Let's move you forward. So a lot of it is a lot of empathy, and it's a lot of building up. It's a lot of positivity, and I'm very upfront with them. Okay, this is the lesson. You got 10 minutes of struggle time. I came up with that word this year, struggle time. And they looked at me and I said that you're going to struggle. Do not ask me questions. Do not talk to me. You have 10 minutes. The whole class as a whole, y'all 10 minutes to figure this out. And after 10 minutes, we're going to discuss it. But I need you all to struggle. And the greatest part about it was, and the fact I love about computer science, like Ms. Neely said, it doesn't matter who it is. Everybody is struggling together. So the students that are usually the ones that can't get it are helping those that, or that are higher functioning. That's a beautiful thing. And I've noticed that students with the IEP, students that usually don't do well on tests are the ones that are rising to the top and are helping those that are used to, always being on top. And I love that hands-on piece. So when I found out the AP exam had an application piece to it, I said, this is great. So my kids actually have the chance to be successful on an actual AP exam. And even if they don't get that 3 and they get a 2, they still feel good about themselves. Or even if they get the 1 and they did really well on the coding part, that's still a success for them. So I believe in celebrating every success, and I believe it's okay to fail. What did you learn from that? And regardless if they become a computer scientist or a programmer or whatever, I always tell them, I want you to walk away a better person than when you walked in my door. Can you think better? Can you problem solve? Can you think your way outside of if you were in the forest, are you going to sit there and wait for someone to rescue you, or are you going to run and find a plan? I need you to make that plan. And that's why I always tell them. So that social work piece is really big, because I've seen AP students, my honors AP students have literally had breakdowns, crying, throwing things across my classroom because they can't handle it. But by the time they're done with the class, they're able to handle the struggle. So when they do move forward, for those in college, they come back and tell me, I struggle, but I'm okay with the struggle. Unlike some other kids here, I'm okay with that struggle. And that's the biggest thing. That's why I love computer science, because kids can see the success of their struggle.
And to piggyback on Coaston, mine was breaking the stereotype. Because when the girls started computer science, they thought about it being a boys' sport. And so I will always tell them to pump them up. You're going to let these boys just take over, and you have all these skills. What is wrong with you? All the time. You don't get this together, the boys are just going to take over. There's not going to be no space for you. So then what are you going to do? But Miss Neely, we think better than the boys. Blah, 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 blah. Well, you have to show me, because I'm not convinced. So now they pretty much can pass up the boys who are at the elementary level at the all boys school that we partner with. They can show them a thing or two, which pumps them up. But it works, and it's nice to see them, especially girls who look like us. That's the great thing about it. And one is texting me right now. I told her I'm in a meeting. We're not talking right now, but yeah, we break those stereotypes. That girls can do everything. Our theme song is Beyonce, "Who Run the World?" Girls. Before we start, that's your 5 minutes to get yourself together. When that song goes off, I need you to start working on your projects and doing what you need to do. And for those teachers who teach other subjects, you can do that computer science as well, because one of the things that I do not like grading worksheets. Coaston knows this from working with me in the district she's at now. I don't like them. So you know what I do? Instead of having them do research reports, you have to design a website on whoever this famous person is. I want to see a website. Design a game. Do your word box, some type of program. I don't want to see a piece of paper. So that's giving them their hands-on piece. They're getting the skills I need them to have in science and ELA, and then they're having fun at the same time. So now when they get out and the kids coming in after them, what did you do? They think we're playing games all day, but they're actually learning.
That's amazing.
All right, so there's one other comment in the chat. I think we need more diverse teachers with different perspectives to teach CS, like Miss Coaston and Miss Neely. A couple people have agreed with that. And there's a question in the Q&A. Missed that place. So the question, there's another question. How about licensure for Native American women and students?
You want me to?
Yeah, go ahead, Crystal.
I can jump in. So if I understand right, you're asking about, is this can anyone get licensed? If the answer is yes, if you are a licensed teacher currently, the CS licensure is a supplemental licensure. So if you are currently a licensed teacher of any race, of any ethnicity, you are free in the state of Ohio. I don't know where everyone is from this in our session, but in the state of Ohio, you are more than welcome to take the OAE 054 supplemental licensure exam. And then of course, CSU has the methods course if you're 9 to 12 and have not had a methods course, and that will help satisfy those requirements. We definitely support non-traditional students being involved in computer science, whether it's teachers or anything like that, because it's important for representation. You can't be who you can't see. So what's amazing about Miss Neely being in an all-girls school is that the young women can see who they can be. And I think that's just one of the most powerful experiences we can have. As far as students, CSU, like I believe all of the other colleges and universities in the state of Ohio, does not have a teacher preparation, a pre-service teacher program for computer science. But I may throw that over to Dr. Jackson. I believe we are spinning the wheels.
We will have one. We will have one. We have an endorsement program at the graduate level for teachers who are already certified or licensed in any content area. They can add a computer science endorsement that should be ready for folks to enroll in January. And then we have been working on a computer science undergrad pathway also. The challenges that I get from the administrators at CSU is who's going to do that, right? What computer science student is going to go through that coursework and then want to be a teacher? So we just have to show some different numbers and stuff like that before they'll approve a new undergraduate teacher preparation program. But we are working on that. We do have some courses. We are a UTeach Institute at Cleveland State. So we do have a model for students to get their degrees in the content area and then take the education courses alongside.
And if that did not answer your question, you can provide some clarification. But as we think about challenges, Dr. Jackson mentioned one of the biggest challenges. How do you get someone who's in CS to do education? If any of you out there are computer scientists, feel free to get an education degree. Cleveland State can help you with that, and it'll be a perfect matchup. But what we're hoping for is more pre-service teacher programs.
So I think that Nigamar Stridhart just joined the conversation because he put in the chat also Shanti is a rock star. So Nigamar Stridhart is a computer scientist at CSU. He's currently on loan to National Science Foundation, but none of this work would have happened without his leadership over the past 8 or 10 years. So. All right. Any other questions? A couple minutes.
Well, I'll do a little close out if that's okay.
Yep.
Thank you to, actually, since Nigamont is here, him for inspiring us to have this talk. Also to Dr. Debbie Jackson, who also serves as PI on the grants that make all of this possible through the National Science Foundation, Cleveland Foundation, all the important work that we do. And thank you so much to our superstar teachers, Ms. Coaston and Ms. Neely, who agreed to jump in here and do this work with us. And Ms. Neely, again, I am so appreciative of you. When I had technical issues, you jumped right in when I called you and said, start the video. Thank you to everyone on here for being so patient with us. And I hope we have offered something that is usable. You could all contact me. I'm not sure if Our contact information is in the registration part, but if you need to contact me, I can put my email in the chat. If you have any questions about any of the work we are doing here in Cleveland, I would be happy to chat with you via Zoom, phone, or email. Thank you all so much for attending our session.
This presentation was awesome, ladies. We're not going to worry about the technical difficulties because the information was just phenomenal. I have the pleasure of presenting with Carla tomorrow, but in just a few moments, Ms. Coaston will be our closing session. She'll be speaking there. So please tune in for that. We have, that starts at 5:35. So we can take a little break, but please come back and hear about some of the amazing work that they're doing that I had a chance to preview the other day. So with that, ladies, again, the information was wonderful. And I really appreciate you all taking time out of your busy day to join us.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.